Hello everybody, it's Cauliflower Man. I am bringing you another gameplay of Battleborn. Today we are focusing on how to be a good team player. This first video is actually not going to be about me very much. I'm playing as Miko. The only thing I can say about what I'm doing is one, look at how much time I'm spending healing even when it looks like my team's full health. Two, notice how I don't really attack very often unless there's a real good opening or if I'm trying to stun somebody. And then three, if you look at the stats that I get, notice how I don't even know, I might get one kill this whole match, but something like 15 to 20 assists, and that's really what you want to do as a healer. But what I really want you guys to pay attention to is my team. And I know I came out with a video yesterday about 5 reasons I hate the Battleborn community. Don't take that personally. It's just everybody likes to rant every once in a while, and I felt like doing a rant yesterday. But this team right here is just a bunch of randoms, and they're doing a phenomenal job. Notice that we've got 3 melee characters and 1 shooter. It's always super hard to finish off the last sentry, especially on Echelon if you've got a bunch of melee characters. But my team is playing very aggressive. They're pushing really hard, and they're playing with me very well. If they get too weak, they come back and they come and heal, or they come back to me to heal. One person who I really want you guys to watch is that Oscar Mike. He's up there getting attacked by the Marquis right now. What he does the whole time is he attacks the sentry. He's the only one who's even capable of doing it, but right now he's solo attacking that sentry, and that's he's doing a phenomenal job. But if you watch him the rest of the time, you'll notice that he's always attacking that sentry. And so one of the things I said in my video about 5 things I hate about the community is they don't attack the sentry. Well, this dude did it all the time. Right there, he just ran into the other team's Marquis, and the other team had a superb Marquis. So there really wasn't much he could do. But notice when he comes back into the fight, what he does. You'll see the rest of our team focus on the sentries, but our Oscar Mike is going to focus completely on the enemy sentry, and that's what we need, because the only other person who can attack the sentry, it's really just me. I mean, I guess our Deande kind of can, but we're really not set up to attack the sentry. And so you'll notice he doesn't have the most kills or the most levels, our Oscar Mike, but he absolutely is the reason we were able to finish off this game so early. If he hadn't been attacking the sentry, we would have been fighting forever. But then notice my team again right here. They just run in there, they do a bit of damage, they get weak, they come back for heals, and then they get right back in there. That's how you got to do it, especially if you're a melee character. Melee characters in Battleborn do a lot of damage from up close, so when you have the opportunity to attack, you can really do some huge damage. But in a scenario like this where you have to walk down that hallway, you can really get screwed over. So my team's doing a phenomenal job. And then obviously right there, that Deande ult, so you got to make sure to finish up with that and help her finish up any sort of kill that you can get. But again, now the Oscar Mike is coming up here. One thing to notice too is that the Shane, he started running back in the back of our behind our battle lines, I guess, behind our defensive perimeter. A lot of times it's good just to let somebody do that, because he's not doing anything for his team right now. So one thing that I see a lot of people make the big mistake of is if somebody's cheesing, and cheesing means you go back and you attack the other team's sentry, like you run back way behind their the battle lines behind their defensive perimeter. So like if that Shane would have ran back and tried to kill the sentry on his own, he would have been cheesing. A lot of people really don't like when people do this, but it's my favorite thing when an enemy teammate does that, because you just let them go. They put the rest of their team at a severe disadvantage, and then so if that guy would have went and started cheesing, then obviously we wouldn't have had to attack him, and we already would have had the advantage of attacking their sentry with a 5v4, and if we take one person out, it's a 5v3, and they'd basically be done. But notice this Oscar Mike again. Like I said, this is what I really wanted you guys to watch, was this Oscar Mike. He's shooting at the sentry the whole time. He is not attacking the minions, he's shooting at the sentry, and so he's just keeping its shield down, he's slowly doing damage to it, and that's what you have to do if you are a shooter. And that's what I meant with my video yesterday when I said nobody attacks the sentry. Well, obviously people attack the sentry, because this Oscar Mike is doing it right here. And watch what he's doing right there. Again, he goes invisible, gets way behind the enemy team, that way they're not going to be able to stop him, and he's going to drop his ultimate right on the sentry, and so then there's nothing the enemy team can do. They have already lost the game, and it's all because of that Oscar Mike right there. So you'll see right here when it shows the stats, he doesn't have the most kills, he doesn't have the highest level, but he was the reason that we won that game so quickly. We probably would have won it later, because as you can see, we had quite a few more kills than they did, but that Oscar Mike was being an absolutely phenomenal player. And if you want to learn how to play well for your team, that's really how you got to do it. So now this next video, it's me playing as a Melka. This one I am focusing more on what I'm actually doing for the team. Like I've said before, Melka's a really weak character, so if you want to play her though, she's kind of hard to hit and you have to play her like a badass. So in my video yesterday I said one of the things I hated about the Battleborn community is a lot of them play like pussies, and I know people don't like the wording that I use for it, but to be honest, that's the best way to word it. But the way to not play like a pussy, I shouldn't have, that's not a good way to, like, you know, help someone actually play the game. What I mean that you need to do is you need to play like a badass. And so you'll notice I get in here like this, or not Alani, the Ambra's trying to get away. I dive in at her, get that kill, and then back out. The one thing that really puts you over the top when you're trying to play like a badass is that you spend every second doing something useful for your team. So obviously right now they've got a lot of turrets up. We need to take those out, so I'm going to do a real good flanking maneuver here. I make sure not to push too far. When you're playing like a badass, you got to make sure not to overextend yourself, although if you're new it's much better to overextend yourself than it is to play too reserved. The reason being is that if you're playing really reserved, what will happen is you won't learn anything because you don't put yourself in any situations that are, like, you know, tough for yourself. But if you actually overextend yourself, you're going to learn a lot out of it. Now obviously overextending yourself is not good, but if you're going to make a mistake of either overextending yourself or playing too reserved, it's always much better to overextend yourself, especially when you're new, because then you're going to learn a lot. And then again, there were two people on me there. I didn't back out because I'm Melka, I'm really hard to hit, so I just kind of dive around, make sure not to die there, and then I'm putting damage on this sentry. Another thing too, like I said before, you got to attack that sentry always, 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 and especially to make sure that the shield stays down. And I know right here my Alani was calling me out, like she said she needed help back there, and I was playing with a real good Alani. It's one of the best Alanis in the game. But anyways, I get back there, and as I'm retreating, you know, that Ambra's sitting right there. I'm able to get that kill. Like I said, like I was really low health, and like I said, you have to be a badass. So even during my retreat, I was doing something useful. And you're gonna watch me here in a little bit, maybe it's like 30 seconds to a minute. I'm gonna get really low health, and instead of retreating, I'm gonna back up and get the shards, which I guess is technically retreating. But if you're gonna retreat, you don't want to just retreat and sit there. If you want to be a badass in Battleborn, it's all about making sure you're always doing something beneficial for your team. If you're just standing there, you're wasting your time. There are situations where you have to just stand there, but you want to avoid that whenever possible. So if you're low health and you've got some good regen gear and you don't want to teleport to base, go back, get the shards, or spend some of your shards buying buildables. Just make sure you're always doing something that has, you know, a purpose for your team or gives your team something beneficial. You can't just stand around and do absolutely nothing. And I guess as I say that, I'm standing around doing nothing, trying to figure out which one of these to choose. I honestly don't know what the best level up is with Melka. As for a lot of the levels, she's got a lot of weird levels that I'm not sure what is the best to choose. That's kind of because I don't play her all that often, because I think she's a real weak character. But again, any character that you play in this game, you can play really well as long as you play like a badass. And so again, we do a bit of damage right there. I was thinking about going around for a flank, but it looks like we've got other people up in that flank, so I'm just making sure to do a bunch of damage to these people right here. I see this Kelvin go through, uses Sublimate. He shouldn't have chosen the slow. If you ever play Kelvin, don't choose the slow. Always keep that stun. But anyways, I tried to clean up the kills that Kelvin couldn't finish off there, and I couldn't finish him off either. But then I just make sure to attack these minions. That's another thing I probably could have put on the video yesterday, is that people don't attack minions enough. You have to attack those minions, especially way back before they get to your minion wave, because a lot of times people will wait for the minions to get right in front of their face before they attack them. That's a terrible idea though. And just for a note, this is when I backed up and retreated to go get these shards when my health was low. And then again, like the last one, I told you to watch that Oscar Mike because he was being a really good teammate and being a badass. This time that Kelvin, he helped me out with this attack right here, instead of just running away where he probably could have died, and that was a real smart move by him. He was being a badass there, and then he gets his teleport back. But again, just always make sure you're doing something useful when you're playing Battleborn. Anytime that you are just standing there, you're really killing your team, and it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be the top dog all the time. That's not what I'm saying. You just have to be doing something useful, because wasted time in Battleborn is what is really going to kill your team. So just always make sure you're trying to do something useful and be beneficial.